I know
Yeah.
we're trying to be efficient, and so if we can be efficient and I can help somebody else do that, then that'll be good. All right. So my name is Danny Ramsey. I'm the assistant athletic director and offensive coordinator here at Brenham High School. Been coaching for about 21 years. Coached a year in college. Coached the guys that I played with, and thought that that was going to be the toughest gig that I've ever had. That's not true. Be the offensive coordinator for a defensive head coach. How you doing, Coach Allen? I know you're on here somewhere. What we're going to talk about is what Coach asked me to talk about. I asked him, what would be most beneficial, and he said that practice planning to get to games, and then how that kind of goes together is what we're going to talk about. So let me make sure I can see what we got going. Okay, so can y'all see the practice plan there, Coach?
Yes, sir. We are good. We're looking at it with you.
So at the bottom, we put all of our practice plans on an Excel sheet. It works okay with Google Sheets. I prefer Excel, but the way that we kind of combine those is you create a file stream. That way, if you like the tools that Excel gives as opposed to Sheets, because Sheets is kind of limiting in some areas, and Excel is in other areas, is that you put that file stream together, and when you make adjustments on Excel, it holds it in your Google Drive on your practice plan or whatever it is that you're adjusting. It helps us for those of us who have the file stream, and then for me, it just helps keeps the thoughts correct, and it helps me to maximize all of this space on a sheet. We take these practice plans out every day. It fills up an 8.5 by 11, and that way we can get all of our information on. As you can tell, we try to plan as much as possible, and we try to get very, very detailed. I've been coaching, like I said, for 21 years, and we've been in fast-paced no-huddle offense for probably 16 of those. And so efficiency is extremely important. It's critical. In that regard, this past year we went to a huddle for a number of reasons, but it's still important, and I would say again critical to practice at a no huddle fast pace if you're ever going to use it during a game. It is very easy to go slower, but you can hold the play call until whatever amount of seconds to get the play off to go and take up and eat up clock. But in terms of going faster, if you don't practice going faster in practice, you're not going to be able to do what it is you want to do when the crunch time comes and we're in game time. We're still working on getting good at it here in Brenham, but we're getting closer to what it is we want when we go. We have essentially 2 real paces, and then we have some things that are automatics, one-word calls that get us on the ball quickly and going right after the last play has finished. As we set up practice, one of the things that we like to do is we want to make sure that we have the entire offense in that we have in this section right here. So as I highlight this, you see all the different facets of our game that we might be in. And these can shift depending on, probably mostly depending on our personnel. So we want to try to have all of our formations on here. And I'll just say this, we go into a game with a couple of about 2 to 3 non-negotiables. One is going to be a goal line formation of some kind. One is going to be a wide, a diamond set, and the other is going to be some kind of funky formation that we have not shown going into that game. We're going to try to put packages together with those things that are non-negotiable. We're going to use them, and then we might shift that funky package from week to week or every couple of weeks. We don't mess with it too much, but those are the non-negotiables. We'll go with those 3 formations. Then when we go into a game, we're going to go in with no more than 6. So our everyday bread and butter, we're running plays that we can run in all of our formations is going to be maxed out at 6 formations. We just find that it helps teaching, especially since we got a number of guys that play on both sides of the ball. So the lower amount of things that we can have them have to memorize and learn, the better. We try to specialize in being efficient in what we name things, and not using terms, if at all possible, that our defense is using to call defenses so that we don't get confused with what those things mean. We try to go and we operate on what we call the block of 5. The block of 5 means in any one of these sections, and obviously formations would be the exception to the rule, I guess, but in any one of these sections, we don't want to have more than 5 concepts. And really, we go into most games with 3 or 4, or even less. We don't want to have more than 5 concepts for each of these things. So this would be a 50 pass or a deep pass, our quick games here, nakeds, screens, any of our blocking tags that could go with our runs. Runs has a few more sections, but that's because, again, in this, on our play script, on our practice script, we are listing everything in our offense here. Some of those things could be doubled up, but we only bold print the things that we're using that week. So for instance, if we're running 91, 92, 93, and 94, but we're only working and using 92 and 94 this week, then on the script, we would actually have it looking like that. And I know it doesn't make a big difference as you're looking at it on the computer, but it just helps us as we're formulating our thoughts as to what we're working on when we go to script everything, which is down here for the entire day of practice. This helps us to know, oh, we're not running 91 this week. We're not running 93 this week, although I like it in this formation, we're not running that. So it helps us as we script these things. We do some other things that help us script them as well, but this is just a good reminder before we get started with too much of the other stuff during our practice planning during the weekend, that this helps us. So we're going to bold all the things that we're going to work on. If we have a special focus, and ball security never leaves this practice schedule, but as you can see, ball security is on there. It's the first thing that's on our focus. But if we have a special focus like receiver blocking, so we might put no block, no rock on here, which is a saying that we use with our receivers. That may be something we're struggling with and we need to get better at. We might say jump sets or in sets for our offensive line are not doing a very good job when we have inside techniques and we have to take care of those guys. That would be something we could put on here. And then what we're teaching that week, we try to list here, and then down in a section that changes down here, we call the install or the perimeter section. We go about 2 hours or so per day in practice. Some of that changes as the season goes on. So on a Monday, you've got 24 periods of practice. Those are 5-minute segments. We would start at 3:50. Our pre-practice warm-up stuff would go at 3:40. We're doing things like specialty practice, punters, kickers, returners, and quarterbacks are warming up with our steps. Linemen are warming up with their steps. Defensive line are running the ring. And so we've got things that are the non-negotiable things that we've got to get in and sneak some individual in during this time if we're not one of the specialists. If we are, we're getting warmed up because we're doing that anyway. And then we follow that with a warm-up, a dynamic warm-up that Coach Faber puts together for us, our strength and conditioning and defensive coordinator. So with our 24 segments, we split those up, and a lot of times because of the guys that go both directions, play on offensive and defensive sides of the ball, we will split it essentially varsity on one side of the ball, JV on the other, and then swap it in the middle on a Monday. On a Monday, we spend a lot of time, invest a lot of time in teaching, not so much in terms of contact, except maybe for some of the technique things, but we're doing a lot of teaching on a Monday. And as you can see, each of these segments is split up. So this would be 15 minutes of a perimeter. This would be 15 minutes of what we call R&P, which if you got questions about that, I'll put my stuff up here later and I can tell you kind of what these things are. But we call this trenches. We believe a lot in verbiage. And so instead of just calling this segment offensively, at least on our practice script, we don't call this inside run, we call it trenches because things happen in the trenches that make you win ball games. And so we changed the verbiage of those things. On a Monday, we do routes on air, which is pretty much universal for everybody. But then when we're doing a 7-on-7, if you look at a Tuesday, then of course it's got routes on there and there anyway. On a Tuesday, it'll say dogfight. Dogfight is 7-on-7. So what is an aerial military term? It's talking about something that's going to be aggressive and we want to see contact happening. That's a dogfight. And so then the last would be a team segment we call Unite. That's when we come together and we get better as a team. So we call that the Unite segment on the offensive side, just to kind of give us some word pictures for what it is we're trying to accomplish. This is a really basic, generic practice schedule. There's not as much split, but what this format gives you is the ability to manipulate all of these things. And obviously, we have our guys split into our wide receivers and our slots. That's our X, Y's, and Z's. Quarterbacks, our B's and A's. Our B's are our running backs. Our A's are our fullback, tight end, / he's got to play slot. This guy's like a Superman. Some guys call him the S. And then our offensive line. And so as each of those segments are split, wherever we're together, those segments are together. So for instance, this is an entire team where we would be doing an install. We might even have the entire team with the defense doing what we call perimeter here, and we got a perimeter drill that's live to start the week off, just so we do get some hitting in on that Monday, even though we're teaching. In this segment, we've got, you'd have your receiver split away from the rest of the group. They're going to be in their individual time. Obviously, that's Indy. We're going to work either stock box or one-on-ones, and we put those things on here, whatever those things are we're working that day that are specific to each of those positions. The quarterbacks, running backs, and the offensive line would be in this segment, hence the reason they're all stacked together. Routes on air would include all of these cats. In some of these segments, when we're practicing, because our B-backs don't get a whole lot of time in our pass protection, we might split up our B-backs, put a couple over here with the pass pro guys with the offensive line, and leave the rest over here to run routes in other positions they might play. We could split it up where we do RMP and then trenches later. We can split it up. We have RMP, but we have what we call our shellfish game. It's what we call some of our uncovered RPO stuff. We have a system that goes through that in a certain amount of time. As we get good at it with the things we're looking for, and we're looking for excellence, we can usually get that segment done in about 3 minutes, but without totally disrupting the way that the practice schedule looks and splitting these into 3-minute segments and back and forth. We don't do that. We just look to buy the guys time, maybe for a little extra water, maybe for a little teaching moment, something we need to get better at when we're running a crawfish or a bubble with lots of guys. Either one you run, we want to get outside and make those guys make us cut, something that we might emphasize during that time. Are there any questions right now so far?
No questions right now, Coach. We're good.
Okay, good. I can't see the other screen. I don't know if that's because I got this up here wrong or whatever, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So here's how this works, and what really is, I think we do very efficiently and helps us formulate our thoughts, is what we do on the weekend. So I'm going to try and share something on here. Nobody wants to look at my arm, but that's what it is. All right. So if you'll bear with me. So on a weekend, we would come in on a Saturday, and in the morning, we're gonna watch the film from the night before, and then we might get some time after we work the kids out, and we'll take some time. A couple of us, or all of us, but some of us do it in the office, some of us do it at home. But we will watch film to get an idea as to what it is we like against these guys. So on our board, when we get in on Sunday, where we start our game planning sessions, we're going to write up, and we want to foster ownership in our process. So it's not, so me as an offensive coordinator, I might be calling plays, but I'm not doing it alone. I got a lot of assistants. I have a lot of eyes in a lot of places specific to help me make the best decision for us and help us make the decision together. So we start that process on Sunday. On Sunday, after everybody has watched their film, and again, it happens in multiple places, we will come in and we will list all of the formations. And we have a list of formations that's fairly long, but the potential for the list of formations is ridiculous. We'll run anything from just spread doubles to a tackle overset with a tight end and an H-back sniffer to the same side or away from the same side. We can run it with double sniffers and a regular set. So there are a number of formations we can run. We try to get some ideas from some people who've had some success against the folks we're about to play, but we take mostly into consideration the guys we have and what they do well. So we're going to list all the formations that we think, and that's all of our staff. So anybody that's been a part of what we're doing on Saturday in terms of breaking down film, anybody that is, and that's freshman coaches, junior high coaches, JV coaches, varsity, doesn't matter who you are. If you're investing in what it is we're doing, your voice is viable. We want to take into consideration what you're suggesting, and we want to look at it and see if it's best for what our offense is doing. So we take all comers with regard to listing formations, except for our defensive coaches. We don't listen to them. But then, anyway, so we list all formations. Now, there may be 13 formations. So we may go into a week and guys say, hey, you know what? I really like spreading these guys out. We're going to be in doubles. We're going to try to be in trio. Coach, I think you ought to keep diamond on the menu as one of those 3 non-negotiables. We will come in and we'll run some sniffer stuff. So that's slot. We'll run some trump. We think that we've got a pretty good scheme with our tight end with what we're going to do. We want to run Trey. We want to run Doc. We want to run some tackle over things. With any of these formations, we can get our, what technically is a guard over formation, but it's tackle over to defense. It's just a man over with your 5 interior linemen. We might tack with some slot and some trump. We might like those things. And really, this is one of those non-negotiable things where we decide what the plays are and one play to go with them. And we only get this number to about 6 plays total, just right and left. It may not be 6, but that's where we want to get a max of. We might like some pro. We think that we can add a tight end and 2 backs, and we can manhandle some folks on the inside. We like twins because it gets defenses in some funky formation because they got to deal with the twins, or they got to deal with a run threat. They got to deal with 2 backs, and then we might be in some split. So as all of this stuff comes in from each of our coaches, we then go back up, and each coach that has given their input then gets a certain number of votes. If we're going to run 6 formations, then I give each coach 6 votes for what they think we ought to run. And so we will tally those up on the board in different colors for each of the guys, and they get their 6 votes, and they go in and they tally it all up. And I know this sounds stupid for me to do this, but I kind of wanted to get you a picture of what it is we're doing. When we get to that top 6, whatever it is, let's say that was what we got out of the week. And I know the numbers don't add up, but let's say that's what we got. Then we would go through and say, we really like slot. We really like trump. We really like pro against these guys. Tack's not going where we're going to use it. We'll have to decide this later, but it's going to go in there. And then we're down to Trey. We really like Trey. We really like diamond, but it can be a non-negotiable. Or this week we may think there's more than just one play that goes into it. And then we're left with, what do we got? We got trio. So there's our 6. That's what we'll get. We will erase the board, but we will have written all of those others up, and then we will split them up into how they fit. Meaning this is a 4 wide, 5 wide set. This is a, these are 2-back sets essentially, or sniffer sets. This is a 1 tight end, 1 back set, and this is a 1 tight end but 2 back set, but it kind of goes together. So that'll be our sets. We'll line them up, and then I'll say, okay, now we're going to run. I want you to give me your 4 best plays. The thing that we do with these plays is we don't say, okay, we like trio, zone, and leave it at that. There are 2 separate plays there, and I'll explain to you why that is and why that's the way we count it in just a second. But there are 2 separate plays here. There's trio with zone to one direction, and there's trio with zone to the other direction. So we will call the direction of it. So we want to run trio to either side. We have to call it right, and then we'd have to write it up left. We like the zone with that. Some of our uncovered tags we don't put in our count because we practice our uncovered stuff every single day. They are everyday drills. And so we are pretty good at those, but we do want to see these in the practice schedule, and that's the deal. So as we put up all of these plays, we may run the stretch out of Trey. And again, this counts as 2 plays. This is not 1 play. So this would be then 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 plays. Now, again, the uncovered tags, we wouldn't count in those, but we do count the plays themselves. And then we would go through and put all of the plays that we like in all of these formations. As we hash that out, and it doesn't take very long. Guys, like I said, I'll give them 4 votes. They go up there, they write them. We're at a certain number of plays. I'll say, okay, you get 2 more votes. They'll write them, and then we'll go through it and get to where the number is that we are. Now, the magic number for us is somewhere under 70, 65 is optimal. This is the big number we want to get to, and here's why. When you go back, it's all about play budget from a practice standpoint. So I'm going to get out of this real quick, and I'm going to show you something else if I can see it. Holy cow. I don't know if I'm going to get it. Did it switch back, Coach, to the screen, or did y'all ever see what I wrote down?
We didn't see what you wrote down, but now we can see your screen.
Can you see the screen? It's got the practice schedule.
Yeah, we see trenches, dog fight, routes
okay,
on
good.
air.
Perfect. Okay, so when we go from those numbers, after we've written all of those things down and everybody's given their 2 bits, we kind of hash out what it is we think is going to be best this week. The reason that those numbers are 70 and 65 and no more than that, and some may think that that's a lot of plays, but when you consider how we're counting it, it's not really. Like, we'll go into a game with 3 runs. It may be zone, it may be stretch, it may be power. Now, there'll be variations, or there might be uncovereds, but that's the only 3 runs we go into games with. We did that multiple times this past year. And the reason being is when you've got guys going on both sides of the ball, your time is critical. It is like liquid gold. I mean, you only get so much, and you can't get it back, and you can't seep it out anywhere else. And no matter what any guys are saying, the guys who are winning the most and doing the best job with their teams are doing the best with the time they're given. They're not making up more time. So here, if you add these together in terms of runs, here's 15 runs. We get through usually about 18 because we go super fast. One of the things we do to practice huddle, because I'm a believer that you don't do something in a game that you don't practice. So what we'll do to compensate, when we went huddle, we went from this get your butt up on the ball and go fast pace, run as many of these plays as fast as we possibly can, and we want to try to get a 15-second window. If we're snapping the ball with 25 seconds left on the play clock, when we're going fast, that's what we want to be. We have not gotten there yet, but we're pushing it pretty close, especially in here. And in trenches, which is inside run, the proximity of everybody is what allows you to get more plays off. So we usually get about 18 plays or so off in about a 7.5 minute segment. Coach Allen, would you say? I really would say actually it's probably more like a 5-minute segment because we go a little slower on the other end, but that's okay. It doesn't even matter. We get what we need, and that's for sure. I mean, we're pretty good at running the football, so we can't complain. But what we'll do in order to get the huddles in there is we'll go through on a practice script, and we will just color code the section that we're going to use. So we'll go a little darker in a section we're going to stop and huddle up in that play, which I try to split it up so that defensively our guys aren't out there running 15 to 18 plays. If we can help it. If we can help it, we're trying to – we don't want to have guys going 18 plays that can't do it and giving us no look whatsoever or risking an injury, more importantly. So we try to put those huddle plays in here, and we'll go 5 in a row as fast as we can, and then we'll all huddle up on this play. And we'll get this play run, and as we do, we'll go right back into going fast, which also helps us transition-wise from a game plan perspective or from a game perspective, because there are times where we're going to want to go. Here's the huddle. We're in it. We're feeling like we're confident. We're moving the football. We get a big first down on a play, and we may want to go fast with something like what we call our NASCAR or an Indy or a super fast or a whatever your term is for that play that you know is coming. Then we like to use that sometimes, and that kind of gets us into that mode of operation. So we put those into all of the segments of our practice where we'll just highlight it on those things. And our coaches, as we're putting these in, our receivers coach and our running backs coach, Coach Castellanos and Coach Roberts, one of them signaling, one of them's calling the plays, and the other one, those guys are one who's one who's calling out the plays is also trying to get the personnel set for the next play. So they're looking ahead to try to get those things in there. But we'll highlight these areas where, because of course we only have black and white printer, but that's fine. This is what we need. we'll highlight those areas where we're going to huddle up so that we can get a shift in defensive guys, and so we can practice getting in and out of our huddle and our fast-paced offense. But as you're looking at this, there's 15 to 18 here that we're going to get. We're going to get 15 usually of our dogfighter, our 7-on-7. And then when we get to our team or our unite, we've got 21 on a day where we don't have specials. But there are other days, and I don't know if I have on this. Yeah. So on a Tuesday, goal line might be our specialty segment. Or on Wednesdays, and I think these are reversed, but we got a live perimeter on one of those days. Or we'll have a 3rd and long segment that we start the practice off with. So we'll only get to the 15 when we get to our team. Now, sometimes we get through all of this and get to about 18 again, but I would say on average we get to 15 plays during our unite or our team segment, and we get 15 on average of our 7-on-7. On the run segment, we're going to get 18 most of the time. We'll get anywhere from 15 to 21. But if you add these up, run-wise, you've got 15 here. You've got probably some, we try to go 50, we try to go really 60-40, but in team we get a little bit more pass heavy just so we can see a team look. So it's more like a 50-50 here. So we're going to get 7 to 8. So if you look at that, when you start adding these plays up, and then you're going to get the goal lines. So you're going to get, say 18, then you're going to get, let's say 7 in team of run plays. That's 25. Then you're going to get 15 in your dogfighter, your 7-on-7. That's going to give you 40 plays. You get your goal line. Let's say you get 5, or your 3rd and long, whatever that segment is. That's 5 more plays. So now you're at 45. In your perimeter segment, you might get 5 aside, but let's call it 10 plays. So that's 55 plays. And then in your install or whatever other segments you're using. So we in R&P, we can get R&P done and get through all of our run plays with our mesh, our pitches, and our reads. We can get that done again in a 3 to 5 minute segment, depending on if it's 107 degrees outside, or if it's nice and 72, or whether we're pressing the pace really well or not, or whatever it is. Our leaders are doing a great job. But when we're doing that, we get a number of plays in there. I can't even tell you what the number is, but it's only a certain number of guys, and it doesn't include everybody. So we'll get right about 70 plays of reps. And it's not even that. It's more like 51 plays if you add all of the, or 56 plays if you add all of these up correctly. And then we're going to get that 3 times in a week. So you're going to get, am I still there? My internet says I'm unstable. Y'all can still hear me? Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Coach. We got you.
Yeah, you're good, Coach.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Okay, so when we get to those numbers of plays, we're only looking at like 56. If you multiply that times 3, you're looking at 162, 168. So you get 168 plays in a week. But here's the thing. If you're going to run the zone, Coach, and you're going to run it well, are you going to run it 1 time? Are you going to run it 20 times? How many times are you going to run it to be great at it? So with all of those plays that we're putting in there, if we're running the zone out of Trey, but we're also running the zone out of Pro, there's a lot of different things that go on in those plays. And so as I'm looking at those plays, I've got to see all the nuances that we're facing. If I'm in a 2-back set and we're running the zone, we're going to have a guy that's going to go to the pitch man as our default. We're going to run triple option read zone, and we're going to run the zone. We're going to quarterback pull. We're going to pitch, and we've got to see who's attacking us, or what that C-gap defender's doing to get that read with a full boat, or when we're just in R&P. So we have to get that a lot. And anybody that runs any form of option will tell you that if you're going to run option, you can't dabble. If you dabble, you're going to get smoked, or you're going to fumble the ball. And one of the, like I said, the focus for us every day that we're outside is ball security. One word that you will hear me say all the time, and it sounds like a different word, but I apologize for it, but I don't, is tuck. I will yell out tuck at the top of my lungs, and they will hear me in another county. Because the bottom line is, if we hold on to the football, we win 90+% of our games. If we turn the ball over, you're giving another guy, you're giving a baseball team another out. You're just giving it away. You're giving the football away. And the most important thing on the field, our kids would yell out right now if I said that, is the ball. The most important thing on the field is the ball. No matter what it is we're doing, it's the ball. So when we tuck, The only acceptable tucked position is for you to have a claw. So if this was the point of the football, we're going to claw that ball across. We're going to take our fingers, and our fingers go on our face mask, and our elbow is tucked in the chin. We tell the kids to look up Tiki Barber because none of them know who the heck he is anymore because they're all freaking 12 years old. But that's the only acceptable tucked position, and they're to run in that position without the ball escaping from that face mask. It should be here. If it's not that, it's not tucked, and we give them a nominal amount of push-ups. It's not a bunch. It's meant to be a reminder, not a punishment. That's not it. It's that, look, if you believe that the ball is the most important thing on the field, you got to tuck it that way, and there's no other acceptable way to do so. So anyway, so as you're running all of these things, all of these plays, you can't get to a crazy number, and you want to get multiple repetitions with those plays. So we have just essentially used the analytics of how many we can get to, how many plays that we can get to, and run them multiple times. So there are things that we do fudge on a little bit. So if we go back to those numbers, if we go back to these numbers, and we're running these plays, we may run trio, we may run our quick game, and we may run, and again, it's right and left. We may run, say, those quick games, whatever it is. Let's say we're going to hang our hat on running a lot of this. We're going to hang our hat on running a lot of zone. If those are things we're running a lot of, we try to build in drills where we do a lot of that. So our RMP drill is really a ton of zone. It's 3 quarterbacks, 3 sets of backs in all the different positions that we run triple in. And we're going fast-paced, snap the foot. They don't even call the cadence, as a matter of fact. They go on me. And so if this is me, we've got a quarterback. We might start in our split backfield here, and we will go. We always start going to the even side. That way, at some point in time, our kids, we want to try to provide them opportunities to lead, and so they do it. They run the drill. They know. Like when we go to RMP, I'll yell out RMP. All of us will run over. We'll have a set of about 6 footballs that are over there. I've got a coach that's a read, and then one of the other players will give them to me, or they'll just sit them at my feet. But here's where the footballs go. And then we will run, say we're going to run zone even, and we're always going to run it even to start. Then they're going to run their path. He's going to run his pitch path. He's going to run his read. And then again, there's a number of ways we do it. If we don't have the personnel, it's just me and these cats, then I will yell pull or I won't yell anything. And they are to react. There's a number of things that go in that, but I'm not here to talk about those techniques. If you got questions on those, we can go over them some other time. But from a practice standpoint, though, this is the drill that gets us a ton of reps, so that when we go back to when we're scheduling what it is we're going to run, we don't have to run zone all the time. But the things that we're good at, we try to go back on that practice schedule and make sure that, say, we're going to run zone 50% of the time in our runs, then 50% of the time we're going to run zone in our practice schedule. And then we're going to try to diversify as we go down that list. Say we're going to run zone 40, stretch 40, and dart or power the other 20. Then we're going to game plan accordingly or practice plan accordingly, and we're going to put plays in that way. And then, so as we do this gets us buys us a lot of zone time without actually having to run the zone with everybody in team. So we go from there and back to the practice plan. So on the practice plan on Monday, when we get done on Sunday and we've got our 65, 70 plays, we've gone into games with 75, but we're really not trying to do that. We would go in, and these are some of our other formations, and we would have those all split in here. We type in all of those plays. So it would be doubles, zone even, doubles, zone odd, whatever tags might go with them. But every single play that we could possibly run is in here. And on Monday, another one of the things that we do in terms of ownership is I don't script this whole set. Our offensive line coaches, and we are blessed to have two of them, they script all week. So Monday, we try to run zone type plays. We're going to run the zone, we're going to run the stretch, and anything that's new. So if we run zone and stretch for the first couple of weeks of camp, and then we decide, okay, it's time for us to add the power, then we're going to sprinkle in the power in here just because it's first day. We taught it, but we got to get some reps on it. You can't just forget about it until the second day or you lose it all. So we'll put a couple of those in there, but the other percentages will be zone and stretch. On Tuesday, then that would change. On Tuesday, we try to run a lot of our gap stuff, powers, darts, things of that nature. So we're going to be heavy, 80%-ish of those things, and the other 20 is going to be filled with the thing we feel like is going to be most successful, whether that's zone or stretch. We hang our hat on both of those two things. That's what we'll sprinkle in here, but we never don't run the zone on any day. So we might only have 2 zones in this practice set right here in the trenches segment, but we're never not going to run the zone. We pride ourselves on the zone. We teach the zone. We try to run it, and we like what we do with it. So that's the thing that we're going to spend a lot of time on. Now, as we morph, if our personnel changes, if we're better at getting outside, or we're just better in terms of blocking the stretch, whatever that may be, the thing that we can shift it, but it gives us that ability. The thing is, all of the plays that we put in on Sunday on that 65 to 70 plays, we are scripting here as we put them in on Monday. Having a fun time trying to get this to allow me to do this other. There we go. As we script these plays, we take that list. There we go. We take that list, we type it all out as we put in a play. So on that list that I showed you a second ago, we had some trio zone, right? So we'd be trio right, zone odd. We'd be trio right. No, we won't run it probably both ways, but let's say we do trio right or trio left, zone even. Let's say, and this is not, these are just fictitious because we wouldn't run it these ways, but that's okay. We would run a trio right, and let's say we would run stretch even because we like our right tackle, but we may not run trio left, stretch odd. Maybe our left tackle's not as good. Maybe they've got a defensive end that is a humdinger, and we don't want to be messing with that guy trying to block him because we don't have the right personnel. Whatever it is, we may not run that. Again, that's why we count each of these right and left. It's 2 separate plays. It's not just one. We want to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position possible. Now, does that put you in a bind sometimes if you're in a game, you haven't run any of the stretch left out of a certain formation, and they switch that dude and put him on the other side? It can, but because we don't do a lot of that eliminating, because we can run almost every play we got. Again, we're in that box of four or 5 run plays. There's not a lot of plays that we have that we can't run in every formation that we're trying to get to. And that makes it, one, because we make our rules simple for our offensive line and they don't change with those formations. The tweaks come to our guys who are in the backfield or have a better vision, and we give them rules that are specific when they're in certain positions. For instance, if we were in, I don't know if I have this pulled up, but I want to see. Nope. I'll try one more thing. Nope, I don't have that pulled up either. Okay, anyway, one of the things that let's see if we got it here. Nope. Okay, so one of the things we do is again, is we try to run those plays in a number of different formations. So we may be, I'll tell you what, we can do it from here. So we would run, for instance, when we run the zone, we run it out of anything that we have. We can be in a double set. and run our zone with maybe a crawfish uncovered tag, the same play that we call for our offensive line, all they hear in this is the code for zone and the direction we're going. So when we get in, say, this set, nothing changes for the O-line in terms of what we tell them. It's still zone, but the play is totally different. Default-wise, this would be a triple option for us. It's still zone. Nothing changes for the offensive line, but the importance is that we've got to see how they line up to this and how these reactions change based on that formation. So we have to see all of those things in order for us to be successful, or that's what we believe anyway. Coach, do we have any questions so far?
I don't see any questions. I got one for you, but I don't see any questions. You said about and maybe I just trying to take notes, just missed it. You talked about the 6 to 8 formations.
Yes, sir.
What's your you said you have a goal line package, so the goal line package is separate?
It's a non-negotiable, so that's going to be in there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm big on red zone.
Yeah, we have 6 in addition. So right here, this is an example week. We thought we were going to do some things with a heavy set. This was our 6, and actually it was only 5, and we went in with a couple of other things that were non-negotiables. But the sting was a non-negotiable formation. This was a bonus. This was a bonus, but that was really our 6. It was these 4 and this formation and this formation. This was a non-negotiable. That was what we went in the week with, those 7 right there. That was it. But this formation, because it was heavy, lent itself to some goal line stuff. This one is a goal line formation, hence the reason it's non-negotiable. And then we were adding a guy because we felt like we could take advantage of putting another lineman in this situation. And so we added a guy here, which was also a goal line short yardage formation. But again, like I said, it doesn't have to be 6. Really, if you're looking at this, heavy meant we brought in a 6th lineman. We were 4 wide, empty with the 6th lineman in this formation. And this one we brought in a 6th lineman, but we were 3 backs, 1 receiver. In this one we were 3 backs, 2 receivers. So we had plenty of goal line / heavy type formation wise in the package, and we had plenty here where we could be spread out and be effective going in. And I think when I made this generic one, this was based off of an early game that we had in the week. So yeah, we run things out of this on the goal line, but we try to set ourselves a goal line short yardage package because people change who they are when you get to that point. You're going to face in the playoffs, we're facing cover 3 teams that are backed off, and when you got past the 10, they are cover 0. They don't care how slow they are or whether their techniques, whatever. They're going to tackle the crap out of the receiver and don't let him get in the end zone and stack the box to try to stop your run. So yeah, you have to have some weapons here. I guess the point I was getting to, go ahead, Coach.
You had one more question, which was how many in the Indy periods do you normally have?
Repeat the question, Coach. I didn't hear you.
How many Indy periods do you normally have?
Okay, so if you look at this segment, Indy is kind of funky for us, the way that we do it, but it's, like I said, because you're going both sides. In this particular practice script, and let me see, I can probably find one. Give me a second. Yeah, see, this is the same, but here's a better idea of like a Tuesday and how it gets split up when we're not teaching. Here's your Indy segments wherever it says. So we had a perimeter that was a live segment for 10 minutes. I don't think we went 10. I think it was more like 5. Then here you had these groups of dudes together, and the offensive line had 10 minutes of Indy during that time. Does that make sense? And then here, receivers went off and stalked. We went to R&P with the quarterbacks and backs, and here the line was working on zone. It was still Indy, but it was working on zone. So they really had 20 minutes here. If we were working perimeter, it was live. We didn't. We had the offensive line because we had everybody, but we could be doing perimeter where we're doing our uncovered segment for maybe 5 in here instead, and the offensive line would sneak another 5 minutes in there. Whenever we do special teams, which we've done special teams a couple of different ways. Sometimes we do it to start the practice after school. Sometimes we do it during our athletic period. It just depends. During those times, we sneak a lot of offensive line Indy in. We try to get, like I said before, in our pre-practice, that pre-practice 10 minutes, quarterbacks are taking our steps. We want to knock our steps out, and we want to get to throwing the ball a little bit, because there are times where we don't start a practice with special teams. We'll start a practice, we'll go pre-practice, we'll come out and do specialty or get our warm-up in, and then we'll go straight into a live perimeter segment or a live good on good third and long segment to start the day and get it going. And so we have to be warm by then. So we've done that during our pre-practice segment. So in terms of Indy, we sneak it where we can. And I assume when they're asking that question, and I'm sorry I can't see who it was, but I'm assuming when you're asking that question, you're looking for specifically quarterbacks and offensive line, because I coached offensive line and I've coached quarterbacks for a number of years, and it seems like no matter what you're doing, you can't ever get enough offensive line individual time. Those teach days have a lot of individual time in them. On those Mondays, this install is not near 15 minutes long, I promise you. We, at the max, we did it at 10. And I know I'm looking at a schedule from 2 years ago, 2 years ago. But we would, in this time, because we might be defensive emphasis here, so they're running defense, we have the JV guys over here. We might also have certain offensive linemen that don't play defense, or any of the guys that don't play defense because they just don't fit the system or the scheme, or we don't have a place for them there. Maybe they don't have that demeanor. We get some individual with these guys because they're going to double it up with the JV. Now, if we had a JV that was huge and had a sophomore team as well, we may not be able to get those repetitions because we don't want to steal them from our JVs and sophomores. But when we've got 8 receivers on the JV and maybe 10 total skill guys, it helps to take the 2 or 3 guys that aren't playing defense and have them go in, and they're getting extra reps in terms of Indy time too. Does that answer your question, Coach, or is he looking for another position in terms of where they get their Indy from?
I think that answers his question.
Okay. So, let me see. Okay, so when we, after that Monday, when we have put in the plays and we've typed them up, when we run it on a Monday, so when we put it in the schedule, okay. So when we run those plays, can you see the screen, Coach, to practice?
No, we can't see it. I got another question for you. Do you guys, how would that change for a Thursday or a Saturday game? While you trying to get that stream going? Thursday or Saturday?
I got you. We try not to shift too often to keep a sense of normalcy with the kids and routine. We find routine to be really important. One of the things, and Coach Allen and I tend to agree a lot on those kinds of things, is that we don't like to change the routine if we can help it. Obviously, there are things that happen all over the time. We're doing a clinic right now on Zoom, and I've never been on Zoom to lead a meeting. So we're doing that right now, and you got to make adjustments as you go. But if we've got a Thursday game, most of the time our practice schedule stays pretty tight to what it is. Now, we do cut some time. So right now this shows 24 segments on a Wednesday. If we're playing on a Friday, that's not necessarily going to happen, or we're going to pull back on when we have any live segments going on that, or excuse me, if we had a Thursday game and we wouldn't have any live segments on this Wednesday. We might have a 20-period practice, or maybe even an 18. And then we might, during the athletic period, we might do some things like our 7-on-7 during that time. Or we may get our individual in during that time, or we may get some, I know we get form rec and defense a lot during those times, so that we can buy some time out of practice after school and get our legs underneath us before we play on a Thursday. Saturday, we don't usually change too much. We don't bounce it all back a week unless we just have to, because maybe we had a long weekend, maybe we had a long drive. We have some games where we're driving 3.5 hours or so, and I don't know what that compares to for anybody else. I just know that when you're getting back 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes we take advantage of the fact that we've got the Saturday. We're going to play on a Saturday coming, or we get back on a Saturday morning at 2. When we're still going to play on a Saturday coming, then we might take advantage of the fact that we've got that extra day and treat Monday like a Saturday, but get ourselves 40 minutes to an hour after school as opposed to 2 hours on that Monday, and do a lot more teaching so we can get some more of that individual, the drill things that we need, that are non-negotiables, if that makes sense. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I don't see anything else in the comments, so I think yes. The coach said yes.
Okay. So the other thing, and I can, Coach, time-wise, you just got to tell me when you want me to shut up, because I'll shut up whenever you tell me. But this would be the last thing that I talk about, but I can keep going. Just tell me what we want when we get to that point. But how we kind of make this work is as we add those plays, let's say we got these in and we ran this twice on Monday, then or let's say we ran it once on Monday, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to shade that one shade. The other thing is I color code what we've got in here. So when we've got a whole plan in here, and let's say, if I put this whole plan in here, and we've got a lot of plays, or we've got all of our 65 to 70 plays in here, if it's black, I try to separate the things so I can see it, because I'm a visual person. I think everybody is. I think it's just at what level. But as we put these in, if we're running runs, I try to put them left justified. If we're running passes, I try to put them right justified. If we've got screens or uncovereds or RPOs, I put them middle justified, so I can kind of see how that split goes. And we're, like I said, we're a 60-40, 65-35 team in terms of run to pass. And so I want to try to work toward 50-50 as much as possible, which means I try to manipulate this to be that, meaning we're going to be as much 50-50 as I can get run to pass. Now, as we go in, if the play is new, like we did on the over here when we were looking at the offense, if the play is new or it's new that week, then in here I'm going to give it either another color or I'm going to bold it. Like you can tell, this is bolded and these are not bolded because we've run these all the time. These are new to the week. So this whole thing shows. The thing that I can't, like I can try to mimic is if I put all of these in. Oh, okay, that's fine. If I put all of these in, and I know this doesn't match with what's on the screen that way, but if I put all of these in, what you get a chance to see is when we go to put these in on, say, a Sunday before we're going to have this ready, and I've looked at all of what we have over here in the script segments. When we put them in, if I see too much green or too much bold, I go back and look, do we really need these things? And we may pare it down. Usually, again, it gets to that whole box of 4, box of 5 theory. If you're putting new and it doesn't matter, guys will get in the argument all the time. My offensive line coach is great. I love him, and he tests the water a bunch, which is what makes us great. But he'll say, Coach, we're going to run, hey, if we're running zone this direction, why don't we run zone with the crawfish and the oyster? Because we do it all the time. Here's my the guys will hear me say this a lot, but it's my overriding philosophy is this. If it's simple, that's great, but more is still more. If I add the crawfish and the oyster, if I add this play out of this formation, even though we didn't have it up on the board and we decided that wasn't a good thing, and we add it up there, where do I stop adding? Where do I stop saying, yeah, but it's simple? Well, yeah, it's simple, but you can line up, and technically we could run the triple option zone all day long and never run another play the entire time, and you can win games doing that. And Coach Allen would be extremely excited if we did. But So would I, if you could do that. I played for Emory Bellard and did a lot of studying under him, and he would tell you that the triple option is the perfect play, and no matter what defense you're facing, that's what you can run, and you're going to be successful. We'd be 3rd and 1, 3rd and 14, and he would come up and he'd twist his watch and he'd say, all right, we're going to run 14. And that would be the play, and it didn't matter whether it was 3rd and 14 or 3rd and 1. You could count it. My senior year, we were running 14 out of the formation we ran. We were going to run a triple, and it did not make a daggum what the defense was doing. Not at all. So here, if we get to a point where these greens look a little heavy, or if we're just bolding that week for whatever that is, and that looks a little heavy, if we're getting into the 6 new concepts or tweaks as opposed to down 5 and under, then I'll go back and we'll cut some things out that we just don't need. We just don't think we need them in order to win the football game. So, and I think that's the key, is that whatever you're doing, you got to be able to handle it with adversity, because everything, it's the whole game is adversity. And so if you can handle it with adversity, then you're better. I also don't think that you should spend the reason we spend so much time owning what it is we do with all of our coaches and putting it together this way so that we can have ownership in our offense is that we want to focus on what we can control. Well, we can't control what the defense does. 2 years ago, we went out and we studied over the weekend, and these guys were a cover 4 team. They were all off. They were an odd front. The linebackers weren't anywhere tight to the line of scrimmage. They were off at 3-by-3, playing normal odd front defense with cover 4 all the way across. And when we came out in the game, it took them 1 series and they lined up in 0. Nobody was deeper than 6 yards, and they played the rest of the game that way. Do you have to be able to adjust to that? Heck yeah, but the way that you adjust to that is in your pocket, no matter what it is you're in formation-wise. You've got plays in the bank that are everyday plays that will beat that. You've got answers in your everyday plays. I don't go create something new to beat them because they're in this when I don't have the personnel to do it. Because if I did all of that study before this, even just on the weekend, if I'm investing my time on the weekend, it needs to be worth something. So I need to have answers in there built in what we do and what we do well, so that when that situation comes, we're not scrapping the whole game plan and creating a whole new offense. That's not necessary, nor is it sound, in my opinion. So we want to make sure that we have answers regardless of what that is, which means there are things that are staples that are everyday plays, like the RP, like the uncoverage practice that we do, the lines from our offensive line when they run lines with nobody in front of them and their steps are getting down to the minute angles as to whether or not they're right or not. It's because no matter what happens in front of them, when we run this play, if they'll step that angle, they can react to what's happening. It's teaching our guys how to react, even if they don't have necessarily the best tools to do so. We're giving them tools to put them in a good position to be successful. So that's how we do our practice plan. That's how we get all of those numbers in there. That's how we stay simple as much as we can. And that's how we feel like we can be efficient and be good at what it is we're running in a week. Because now, as I'm looking here, I'm going to know after I run this one time, I've color coded it. If I run it twice, then I go and I darken it 1 level or 2 levels, whatever I can see. And then if we run it a 3rd time, then I'll go in and I'll make it black. And then if we run it a 4th time, which doesn't happen a whole lot, I mean, you got 65 plays you got to get in, but there's some things like zones and stuff that we can, then I will not only do that, but I will change the color, and now it's locked. I don't care. We've got it 4 times during the week, and I know that it's there. Now, how this translates, and I'll do this real quick, and Coach Banks, just cut me off if I need to cut at this point, but I wanted to kind of show how.
Yeah, this is your last thing.
Okay, I got you. I know I'm talking forever, and I can talk forever. So what we do is now, so this is our game call sheet. We have front and a back. On the back, is our offense. The same thing that we had printed just a second ago. Our offense is on here. When we go to make this a call sheet, we take that practice plan and we have a script. But to build the script, we take the number of times we ran those plays and our coach's input for what we did during practice. So on the practice plan, when we get after Wednesday, our coaches submit a top 10. I take those top 10s and I put them and plug them into here. Then I put it into frequency and where they fit on a left hash, middle, and a right hash. So I take all those plays we just ran.
Script is not showing. I'm sorry, Coach.
Oh, okay. Let me go back.
It's not showing, yeah.
Okay, I got you. Hold on. You got it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're on, this is a top 10 down here, tab at the bottom. After Wednesday, the coaches submit their top 10 plays, and that's top 10 total, just like we took them when we were counting them earlier. On their top 10 plays, they're going to give them to me, and I'm going to plug them in here. When we plug them in, then I go back and I order them here so that I can read them in terms of, okay, these are the zones, these are the stretches, these are the powers, okay, pass, quick game, play action, whatever. I just kind of put them in an order where I can tell what plays are what. It's not just a big old smash of plays. Also, when I take them from that practice script on Monday, after you've tagged them, then we copy this, we put it on the Tuesday, and we start again. So Tuesday, I've got the plays from Monday here. I take this, I copy it, I go to Tuesday, and I put it right here where it's color-coded, and now I begin again. So if we didn't run stretch on Monday, but we run it on Tuesday, then now I go up there, and I'm going to color-code it there. So by the time you get done with the week, this is all full. You should have run your plays at least twice, some of them 3 and 4 times. And then now you can take those plays, and I can take all of that, and we put it down here in the top 10s where I know how many times we ran it. Also, say Coach Roberts gives me zone out of trio right, and Coach Klingler gives me zone out of trio right. Then I do the same thing in terms of color coding it to put it down here. So I know that zone right out of trio got this many votes from our coaching staff and the guys who gave us input. So I know which ones our guys feel good about. So when we go to make our script for the game, this would be a first half script. This would be a second half first 10 play script. And I try to visualize after watching film, not only on the weekend, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to return the ball at such and such place on the right hash. That's where we're probably going to start. So that's where we're going to start. So I would go to the right hash plays, and I would pick one off of there. Maybe the most frequently used or listed play from each of the coaches. Maybe not. Maybe something trick play to start a game. Just depends. But I have all that information here as to what our entire offensive staff believes we're best at. And that's how we go into game planning, what it is we do. After we do that, when we get on the game plan sheet, we go in and fill out how we have it and how we want to run it in a game. So it would be, can y'all see this? No, resume share. Can you see it here? The game call sheet?
No, we don't.
Now? Y'all see it now?
We're good now.
Yep.
The call sheet. So on the call sheet, then there's your plot spot for your first half script. There's your second half script, and you can just cut and paste them from the practice script. Then on here, you've got left, middle, and right hash is how we set up parts of our plays. And I'm sorry, I was trying to shorten this so you can see it, but you got first down calls, second, short and long, third, short, medium, long, 2-point plays, goal line plays, and off to the right over here, you can see special segments, 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, so special fourth down plays, because in fourth down, they're going to do this. Easy runs, if I'm just drawing a blank and nothing's working or whatever, these are things I can call that are safe no matter what. Last 3 plays of the game to win, red zones, and we split those up into pass and run wherever we feel we're going to do those things most. So, guys, I really appreciate it. So glad that Coach Banks asked me. Here's my information. So if you want to get a hold of me, ask me questions, or if you want to tell me, hey, you're a bonehead, don't ever speak again. That's that's fine too. But I wanted to make sure you got this information so you could see it and contact me if you need. Coach Banks, anytime you need me for any of this, I'd love to present. But there's our stuff, and that's our presentation on practice plan.
Coach, I loved it. Guys, make sure you get Coach information. It was great.
Again, I appreciate it, Coach, and we'll be sure to tune in on the next set of clinics you got going.
Yes, sir, guys. Thank Coach Ramsey, Coach Lisa for doing those presentations, and thank you guys for being on tonight. Have a great night.
Dude, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Coach.
Yeah, have a good one. Take
We still got guys on here that got questions.
Yeah, Coach, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Hello. How much do you, on your zone, how much do you pull to throw the crawfish?
When we run the crawfish, for us, it's an uncovered scenario. So if we've got leverage on that guy, then I give quarterback leeway to take it. You want it, take it. You're not going to bother me. As long as you can explain it to me on the sideline, then take it. So in terms of percentage, I don't know. It depends on who you play, I guess. You know, we stumbled into some things a couple of years ago. We were in late in the year, and we used sniffer set all the time, but we weren't necessarily throwing that crawfish to the two receiver side a bunch, or we would only have the sniffer. I don't know if you can you see that paper? Can you see that paper, Coach?
Yeah, we see it. Yep. I see it.
You see this? Okay. So if we're running our sniffer set stuff, we got in a formation where we were doing this.
Pull it
And
down.
when we would run the stretch, we'd run the stretch and we'd add this guy to it, but he didn't really do anything to us. So we might be running the stretch this direction, right? And we'd try to add him, and he really wasn't doing much. There wasn't an opening space. So when we later on in that year, we're in a lot of sets like this. And so we did a couple of different things. At first, if it's like this, we call this our trump set. If we're lined up like this, then obviously you want to run the stretch this direction, or at least that's what we thought. We got about halfway through 2 years ago and said, you know what if we apply this rule that we had here, but we do it here? What's keeping us from running that back off this backside edge to run stretch? And then we can crawfish. Now we're stretching the entire field, plus we're running stretch to what usually is a gimpy short side. Like they're going to give you a short edge, or they're going to give you a tight 5, but you're going to be able to get the edge with a tackle alone. And we get a bonus player. It's kind of like getting a puller without pulling. So we would give a lot of this kind of a set. This back is kind of playing either back or whatever to try to play off like a safety, because you've got 3 receivers here. So your freeze all the way over. There's your strong outside backer might be playing there. We see a lot of odd. So it was something like that. And they may not be depth-wise the right way, but that's kind of how they tried to play it. They might even play this cat over here because of that guy in the stretch and play him up and roll him over. Does that make sense? So he's got to play kind of like a safety. So in doing that, we ran stretch this way because we were getting a short edge and added him. Coach, the mileage is ridiculous. But what's funny is they got to paying attention to this. We're running stretch and we're running crawfish. Well, this cat didn't know where to line up. if he lined up inside with a backed off safety, we're throwing this ball. And we had a guy, and I kid you not, he ran a 5 flat 40 at slot. He was not very fast, but we were gaining 13 yards on average throwing this crawfish because leverage wise, he couldn't get there. They were taught the entire time, and a lot of defenses are taught right now, is if they're playing any kind of zone or you're an outside back, or regardless of which side you play or what depth you're playing at, your eyes are all inside looking at quarterback. And if this quarterback's hands go down, they are playing run. They don't necessarily sprint to that spot, but they're playing run. And because he paused or his eyes got stuck or his hands were down, or even if they weren't down, everything about this says run this direction because the whole line's going, the A's going, the B's going. He doesn't. We're taking off outside with already about 2 yards to 3 yards leverage there, and either he pauses or he moves inside. That buys us just that more space. That's much more space. We stalemate here, and it's stay outside, and it's a lot of yardage. So when we played that, that's a long way to answer your question, but when we played that a couple of years ago, I would say we probably threw the crawfish 40% of the time. But that's not, I don't know that that's normal or that's always, but that's what we did then. I think I lost him.
That's good stuff there, Coach.
Oh, thanks.
Do y'all run opposite off of that?